Julia, who is terminating women's rights?
Now, I know this is hardly news, but the BBC is chronically biased. Slightly left-wing, but the main bias is as liberal, progressive, social justice, political, philosophical slant. So they want to bring race, gender, LGBT issues into anything. So whatever the topic is, whatever the programme is about, you'll see these themes coming into it. And also, they're totally committed to contemporary understandings of feminism. And a part of that is that they're totally and utterly pro-abortion. Now, with the BBC, the bias in the news is pretty bad on TV, radio and on the website. But to be a broadcaster in Britain, you have to be neutral. And the way that's interpreted is you have to have people representing the two sides of the argument. So on the BBC, they'll have the progressive representative who will be asked some nice open questions. They'll recount their heart-rending story. And then the person will turn on the person with more conservative views, and they'll be hounded and interrupted and mocked. But the BBC can say, we had someone on from each side, and so we were neutral. I mean, sometimes they don't even manage to have someone on from each side. But anyway, but the worst problem in terms of BBC bias is the other programmes. It's the drama, etc., where they feel free from this sort of analysis. And comedy is another area where anything goes. So I've got a little clip from the radio of a alleged comedy about abortion. Now, needless to say, the presenter and every panellist are completely pro-abortion. Those who are to be mocked, the butt of the joke, the comedy content is about the legislators in Alabama who've restricted abortion there. And you're going to listen to it in a minute. Now, taking of human life, that's an issue of the utmost gravity. And I'd be reluctant to trivialise it in the form of comedy. So while you're listening to this, when you hear them talking about abortion, just think killing unborn children. When you hear them talking about women's rights or reproductive rights, they're talking about the right to end a human life. Listen to this.
Julia, who is terminating women's rights?
Yeah, Alabama's Senate has voted to roll back abortion law in the states to basically outlaw all abortion in pretty much every possible scenario. Basically, once you've got a heartbeat, you can't have an abortion. So once you know you're pregnant, you're not allowed to have an abortion. However, to be fair, there is a loophole. If you don't know you're pregnant, you are allowed to have an abortion. So that's good. But what's interesting is the Senate... Well, it's nice they give it a snap. The Senate is made up of 31 men and 4 women as senators, and not a single one of the women backed that ban. And I was just thinking they should just make it fair. So why not have a law where the women can get abortions, but the men can't? Then everyone's happy.
Well, did you see the pictures of the lads who voted for this? All of the Republicans who voted to curtail abortion in Alabama had the most white American names whatsoever. So curtailing abortion rights is one thing, but to be dictated to on issues of reproduction by a man named Randy is unacceptable.
It may be like if all these old geezers are interfering in young women's stuff, young women should be able to legislate for old geezers stuff, right? They should ban like brandy and golf.
You can imagine the way that programme's going to influence people. Imagine someone thinking about the issue, deciding which side of the fence they're going to come down on. If you decide you're going to go down on the pro-life side, then you're aligning yourself with the group who are absolutely ridiculed, the ones who are portrayed as total idiots just to be mocked and laughed at. If, on the other hand, you're on the pro-choice side, you're likely to become particularly cocksure in your beliefs. You're absolutely right, and the people who disagree, well, they're just stupid. Now, in this show, any hint of the other side of the argument being represented? Not a glimmer. I mean, could it even be represented in comedy? Well, you could say that you could make some comedy about the fact that the people who are claiming the moral high ground are the ones who want to be taking human life. But the issue is too grave for comedy. But imagine you were on the show. What would you do? You wouldn't be able to join in with those sort of jokes, with that comedy. So you're excluded from taking part in the programme, more or less. Now, if someone wanted to make comedy about abortion and put it on in the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, then okay, fair enough, freedom of speech and all that. But the BBC is a government agency. It's funded by a licence that's pretty well a tax on people in Scotland. Now, if there'd been a disaster in Scotland that claimed 12,000 lives in the last year, the BBC wouldn't be making comedy programmes about it. They wouldn't be laughing about it. And yet there have been 12,000 abortions in Scotland. Now, by deciding to have comedy about abortion, the BBC makes the decision that abortion does not involve the loss of human life. But anyway, try as they might, the BBC's losing the battle. We heard about the case in Alabama. There's lots of things happening in America, but the tide's turning in the pro-life direction. The pro-life movement's gathering momentum worldwide and in Scotland. Now, in Scotland, the decisions are made on abortion in the Scottish Parliament, and currently it's all headed in the wrong direction. Abortion liberalisation and celebration. And that will carry on until people start using their votes to oppose it. And we're here to give people that opportunity to express their support for life at the ballot box. Thanks for watching.